I think we're live and Adam on Instagram for the first time. Welcome to the Front Runner Sport Podcast. We have a new member of the team this week. I don't know if you've been here before, John T, but we've never worked before.
No, 100%.
Okay, cool. Yeah. John T. Mark joins us.
Of the team.
Yeah, but
ancient of age,
exactly, and experience. There we go. Yeah. And we have our staple diets of Velile and Mazola joining us. Thank you to you too for joining us. As we reflect. There's so much that's been happening, but I think the first point was what we were looking towards as far as Amajita last week. We knew that the draw was coming for them as far as who they're going to face as far as the World Cup was concerned in their group. We now know that obviously it's going to be Argentina, Korea, and Portugal. Yeah, it's a tough group. I mean, you just look at that and you just think to yourself, do I know of any young Argentinians that are playing first team football? Do I know of any young Portuguese playing first team football? And you can already start ticking those boxes, which then brings into contrast our youngsters and whether they are given the same opportunities that their opponents have been given. It's going to make for an interesting time in May. Veli, how do you see this one?
No, very interesting group. Tough that we got there. But also, I mean, having been seeded, in fact, we're not seeded, but having been in the last spot for the draw, you're always going to expect a tough draw like this because by the time you come up against the big guns, all those other groups have been said. And also, It's also because of our record, because we hadn't been to the Club World Cup since 2009 when we went to 2017.
Right.
So we've been away for a very long time and also our performance as well. I don't think we've even gone out of the group stages.
Yeah, we were knocked out in the first round in 2017.
Yes. So it was always going to be difficult to get to be in a better pot. But what I can also look at, I remember in 2017, we were playing at the same venue for the last game when we played against Uruguay. And I always talk about this thing. And this boy, he played 2 games. He plays for Juventus now. And I saw him, he started last week against Atletico Madrid.
Bentancur, yeah.
Yes. For Uruguay.
Right.
He played against our boys, that boy. Grant Mahaman, Tebogo Mokoena.
Korea, South Korea.
Yes, and we controlled him very well. In fact, it was a goalless draw between us. And you know what? Following year, the boy was playing in the World Cup regularly.
Yes.
You know, so it goes back to the point that you are making. So in the same day, Portugal was also playing. So they are coming back now. And interestingly, Portugal were also in the same group with Zambia. And they had lost to the Zambian team. Of Fashion Sakala, Pets and Daka, Mwepu, you know. So when you look at the progression, Zambia is not there. Portugal is back. Yes, maybe you can say something about our performance because Zambia went all the way. I think they were eliminated in the quarterfinals, but they're not there now. So it goes back, and some of the boys that were taking back. Like Kulekani Kupeka, the goalkeeper who's the captain now, he might not have been the number 1 goalkeeper at the time, but he's back. So in terms of progression, you know, so when you talk about countries that are not really under 20.
Here we go.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because especially the way that you've got this thing so close, John T. You've got a World Cup in 2017, and there's another World Cup in 2019. So even the composition of your squad, there are players who will still qualify for under 20 this time. So they will help you for the next qualification.
Sure.
So it shows you that some countries were short-sighted, or it's the disease that continues to eat our continent.
Yeah, I believe it's much easier to assess under 17s than it is under 20s. It's
yes, yeah.
With the DNA and the
genetics. You can't do that in the bone test, and you can't do that the older they get. But, I mean, you speak about progression. Does that progression, in a sense, mean that we're going to be able to progress past that group stage?
Yeah, that's another interesting debate. I think, who was it? I think it was in the Sunday Times yesterday. I read Sazi Hadebe sort of asking the same question, that do we have this disease of, especially with the junior national teams, because we become so consistent now almost with qualifying for major competitions, unlike the senior team. That's another story for another day. But the question now is, are we there just to make up the numbers? Are we going to do what Zambia did when they were there in South Korea, getting beyond the group stages and getting to the quarterfinals and really looking like a threat, or maybe perhaps even one of the underdogs, favorites, or what have you? So that's another thing. Proud of the boys for progress shown. Proud of the boys for being consistent. But my concern here again is that in 2017. There were several players that were already playing PSL football.
Right.
Whereas this time around, I think we mentioned it last week, we had the AmaZulu left back, Mabiliso, as the only one who's playing regularly PSL football. Sure. You've got Ngobo, who's registered to play for Kaizer Chiefs in the first team, but obviously he's only been playing reserve team football. Sure. So That's a difference this time around. Thabo Snong, yes, he's done it again. He's managed to qualify for a World Cup place. But the dynamics are very different this time around. You are really looking at possibly wanting the boys for a longer period to assess fitness levels, to get them to obviously again understand the way you want to play. But they're not really used to playing. They might be playing regularly reserve team football, but that level of competition, that's just a different stage altogether. So, and of course you'll have, I did a story the other day looking at just how many actually PSL players that can play at the World Cup that are eligible, given the FIFA rules that you must only be turning 20 by the end of the calendar year. I think there were several, but again, some of them are not playing regularly. But the teams are going to come out of the woodwork now, wanting, because it's a big stage now. Yes, their players must be there, be scouted and whatever.
It's interesting what you're talking about, because I saw a tweet from Lungaso Kela, from Amazulu.
Yes, correct.
Where he was talking about this, that Mabiliso is not just any left back for them. Yeah. It's their first choice left back.
90 minutes all the time. Yeah.
And the boy is young. And
did he play on Saturday against?
I'm not sure.
I'll check that.
Yeah, because Mabiliso, they released him, and I think they had two players in that tournament, and he reminded me of the situation where Ajax refused to send their players for the under-17 AFCON. Right. I think they were going overseas to play a tournament, and when the team qualified to its maiden under-17 World Cup, now all of a sudden Ajax were availing the players because they know, because at the World Cup, it's the shop window.
Sure. So are we going to see the Lyle Fosters of this world at the World Cup then?
No. I spoke to Thabo Snong last week, and he did say when it comes to Foster, when it comes to Tashrik Matthews,
but he was there at the AFCON anyway.
Yes, and also Cross. There's this boy who used to play for Aces, is now playing for Schalke in Germany. Yeah. They understood because this tournament, it fell outside the FIFA calendar. Right. So they couldn't get them. So now, after the draw, he's going to go back to Europe and visit all the clubs where they're looking at selecting the players and share their program with the coaches. But remember, the Under-20 World Cup, it's where everyone is looking forward to.
Showpiece, yeah.
Yes. And he did say that players like Foster...
He doesn't see a problem.
Yeah. It's not going to be an issue because, he was saying with Foster, it's not just about missing him on the field of play, but also just in the camp because he's been part of this group. Remember, this group, their loss against Senegal, it was their first loss in 18 months. But I also want to agree with Mazola. The only blemish for me around this current Amajita team is not having these players who are active in the PSL.
Sure.
Because Mazola talks about that group of 2017. We had Tebogo Mokoena, Grant Mahaman, Pagamane Mahlambi, Ray Frosler. You also had
Wiseman, I think, was there.
Wiseman when I was there, but at the time he was still playing in the MTC. But you also had Luther Singh, who had started to do well with the team.
Sure.
So now all those players are not there, and the majority of the players in this camp are players who are playing in the MTC. Now the MTC, as the league, finished this past weekend.
Sure. So now what?
And now they are only left with what? The MTC Shield.
And so is that not in a way more important than a result orientated view on the Under-20 World Cup? Because I mean, if you think about it, we're playing Argentina, who are one of the best teams in South America perennially. We're playing Portugal, who are the reigning European Under-20 champions, I think, and also, consistently do well on a global stage. We're playing South Korea, who are a rising force in Asia and have been around forever. I mean, if I was to now be asked to place a bet on where South Africa were going to finish, without my heart, I would place a bet on South Africa finishing bottom of the group.
Right.
So is it not more important that these players, there's some sort of structure in place where these players then get into more PSL clubs, they play in top flight football, or they move to Europe, or they develop so they can then play for the under-23s and then ultimately the senior team? Is that not almost more important than us winning the Under-20 World Cup? Or,
No.
Or going far at the Under-20 World Cup? It would be my question.
Well, I guess you could have both, no?
Yeah, you could have both. But I'm just saying that as long as the development is there, can we then say, okay, well, we were playing Argentina, Portugal, and South Korea,
I think
so it's okay.
Taking from this recent AFCON, you get to see the competitive levels of the team. You can tell between those who are playing at that level and that level, taking nothing away from the MTC, because I think one of the things, at least we've seen these teams no more playing just around here in Joburg or a team in Cape Town and playing against a team from the LFA there and they're beating them 12-0, 15-0. So at least there's strength versus strength.
Yeah.
But in terms of competitiveness, you then have a situation where a team is trailing 2-0, it's 15 minutes to go. This team, they know that they need to find an equalizer because they're either fighting for promotion or relegation.
Yes.
So that competitive...
So with the stakes not being that high, you're going to struggle to get that level of competitiveness.
Yes, because now... If a player has never played for that and you're taking him to the World Cup, say, hey, this is where it is,
What's he going to do when it's crunch time?
Well, I mean, again, I think to Jonty's point as well, if now the MDC, there's no action there and it's the cup competition version of it, that's also an opportunity for Thabo to just say, hang on, they are not really doing much. Can I just get them for longer then, and especially the locally based players, and get them to play together to understand
the camp.
Each other better, have a camp and then, work out a different plan for the overseas based players, because I think we have a decent number over there. So either way, I think the only problem that he faces here is those clubs that are now going to try and impose players on Thabo Senong. But if he sticks to his guns and says, I'm picking the core of the team that did the job in Niger, and I'm selecting those overseas based players, because it's not that they refused, their clubs could not, based on the rules, that clubs could, I suppose South African teams could argue the same, but their issue here is that they were perhaps not even as patriotic as probably they should have been. So even though I feel they would still have a case to say, look, we still had a case why we couldn't bring in these players. But when I looked at that list of players that are in the PSL, registered to PSL club but couldn't go to Niger, actually, a lot of them are not playing first team football. So really there was no excuse to let them go. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, gents.
In fact, Thabo has already said that the majority of his squad will come from the players he's been working with in the last 18 months.
Makes sense, though.
Yes.
To reward the same players who've been there.
Yes.
Does in a sense, but then you've also got to be practical and say the other teams are also going to beef up their squads with players they probably didn't play at their kind of continental tournament. So you've got to be competitive. You've got to, you can't just... It's all very well being loyal, but if you get thrashed 5-0 by all the teams, it doesn't look great.
Well, if I remember correctly, Thabo did argue the same thing before South Korea, that he would pick the core of, but once the clubs were availing the regulars or the much more experienced players, he, you know, I think even the association kind of had to step in.
Yeah, no, even though we cannot confirm, but the final selection, yes, it's up to the coach, but there's a lot of pressure coming from the FA. But the coach will just have to remain resolute, because you also now have the agents who see this is an opportunity, because we're going to the World Cup. But also some clubs as well. Clubs who don't normally release players, all of a sudden, because they can see that there's gold coming. So we will be watching.
I guess we'll know by the 23rd of May when it all gets started. Thanks, gents, for your reflections as far as Amajita are concerned. And we were touching on the youngsters. Now let's go to the men's national team. Curious question. Why doesn't Stuart Baxter have a permanent assistant coach?
I'll start with this. I was thinking about this today because, his position at the moment seems so impermanent on a level. I mean, he was linked to Kaizer Chiefs sort of previously before the start of the season. And if you look at it now, he's probably going to leave, I would think, if they don't beat Libya. If they lose to Libya, because if they get a draw, they still qualify for the AFCON. So if I'm the head of SAFA, and I don't always have a lot of time for SAFA, but if I'm running SAFA, am I going to pay someone on a permanent contract that might be gone in the next 3 weeks, kind of thing? So at the moment, it's kind of that kind of, I think, impermanence about it that's making the decision to appoint a permanent assistant coach a bit difficult. I don't think Baxter's kind of helped himself by appointing his son as goalkeeper coach as well, in terms of what that looks like, but he is a qualified goalkeeper coach, so in that sense it's not such a problem. And then Sean Bartlett, he tried Quinton Fortune, it didn't seem to really work. Quinton Fortune left, and now Sean Bartlett's obviously come in, and I don't know if Sean Bartlett's going to be the assistant for the next match. It seems a bit up in the air. Maybe Mazzola knows who's going to be the assistant for the next match.
Any ideas?
No, I don't know who's going to be the assistant coach, but I do know that Chiefs had said they will not.
They won't release him.
I mean, when he signed the contract in December to be Ernst assistant, remember also his SuperSport contract was now null and void because of that job, because Chiefs wanted Sean to be exclusively a Kaizer Chiefs employee. They didn't want him double dipping or whatever. So at the time, I don't know, maybe conversations have been had, because obviously Chiefs and Baxter are bosom buddies, so so maybe conversations have been had since then. But in December, from what I know, the story that I did, even checking with SuperSport, and SuperSport did confirm that Sean would no longer be working for them as a result of him joining Kaizer Chiefs. And from what I understood was that he would also not be part of the Bafana setup. Either way, it was a camp by camp basis. But the understanding was that, because at the time he was unemployed, the understanding was that he would carry on for as long as he could, and especially it worked out better because he lived in SA, whereas Quinton lived abroad, and all the funny dynamics around that. But no, I don't have a clue who is going to be the assistant coach. It might just be Stewart and Mulifinzeki all alone.
But in fact, it should also be remembered that this is the first international break since Mirandop came on as a Kaizer Chiefs coach. So it's crucial that in that break you get to work on a lot of things where you feel that the team is lacking, and the way they've also been working at Chiefs.
That's true.
So they will need the assistant coach.
Sure.
And things are not going well at Chiefs. And if you look at it, the next, I think the quarterfinals of the Nedbank Cup are at the end of March. And this camp comes just a week before those quarterfinals. And
the Nedbank Cup is basically Chiefs' last chance of winning anything.
It's the only realistic chance that they have. And they're playing against Cape Town City.
Right.
George Manuleka said they can still win the league.
I looked at the maths.
That was before the Polokwane City game.
Mathematically, they can win.
Yeah. So when you look at that, if I was a Chiefs head of technical, it would be a straight no from me because I need my assistant coach.
Sure.
And it's not like they've got 2 assistant coaches at that time. You know, well, maybe with the MTC having finished, maybe they'll also second others one. But I just feel for me it's difficult, and I think here I would also blame the coach. You know, because you see, seasoned international coaches, when they take jobs like this, they come with their own assistant coach.
Right.
And then the second assistant coach, as we've seen even here on the continent, you will be given by the FA.
Sure.
So in this case, but if you follow the story of Coach Baxter, especially after his return, I think even back then, you had Steve Hombela as an assistant coach. Now he also had Dr. Kumalo at Chiefs as an assistant, and he had Kaitano Tembo at Supersport. So he's never been one
to have his own man.
Because most coaches prefer that. They bring one of their own men. So here, I felt this could have been handled better, because the way I understand it, I also heard that Quinton Fortune was not really Coach Baxter's choice. Somebody was imposed on him by the SAFA hierarchy. So,
but why would SAFA impose someone who is not a crowd favorite at all? I mean, you remember the backlash when Quinton was hired as, you know, that on its own was just mind-boggling.
I think whoever made that decision,
did it for the optics or what?
Well, he's linked to Man United. He's still working as part of Man United as their scout. He will have that European representation,
and I think they wanted him to also be a scout to get in touch with the European-based players.
Yes. But if he was really somebody who came through the coach, I'm sure he would still have been there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hey, that's a tricky one. Okay, well, we'll see. Let's see. As you say, a couple of weeks, we'll know the fate. Of
on another note, I would raise if there's a financial issue here. I mean, I've always thought that SAFA have less money than they say they have. I mean, they've always, because when Baxter was hired, it was Danny Jordan was saying money's no object. Carlos Queiroz was in the frame. They couldn't get Carlos Queiroz. Interestingly, now Carlos Queiroz has been hired by, is it Colombia? As their national team coach. So obviously, if you have the right amount of money, Carlos Queiroz will come and coach you.
Yeah, sure.
SAFA just didn't have the right amount of money, and perhaps it's the same with an assistant coach. It's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, Baxter is on the record saying that
the issue of having the permanent assistant coach cannot be blamed on the FA.
Okay.
It cannot be blamed on.
But I think it's two ways, Velile. I think the coach shouldn't necessarily be thrown under the bus all on his own here.
Mazola, I'm saying to you. Look at Hervé Renat. You know that he always comes with his own assistant coach.
Right.
You look, even when Shakes was the coach, he brought Tabo with him, and the FA gave him Owen Dagama, you know. And you look at most international coaches, and I remember this one very well because Coach Baxter always talks about he's forwarded the plan. But then you listen to the FA, they said, no, but we're waiting. You know? And I've just shared now.
So who's fooling who?
I've just shared now.
Yeah.
I've given you his history coaching here in the country. And when did he come with his own assistant coach?
Yeah.
No, that's 100% true. Yeah, Campello was from the FA.
Yes.
Kamala was from the FA.
Yeah, he's always been assigned.
But they've never objected to Jairo Leal coming
with Pereira.
You know, they never objected to Godni Hassan coming with Thomas Matichache. Serame was already in the mix, you know.
So what does that say?
Fair point.
Is he a tough man to work with?
I don't know.
Fair point. Actually, I didn't looked at it from that point. That's a fresh perspective.
That is a good perspective. Yeah.
I've always been wondering who's fooling who here, because Baxter says financial issues, and then there were also talks of perhaps maybe the FA want their own person to you know, they want to impose on who should actually be their assistant coach, and then on the other hand. You have the other story where the FA has always maintained that they're waiting for the coach to submit.
Maybe they want plausible deniability when it all goes pear-shaped.
In fact, even Pizzo begged them not to release Jairo Leal.
Yeah.
Because they were releasing the Brazilians to go back home.
Yeah,
Pizzo begged them to
let
keep
Jairo stay. Fair point.
But I mean, yeah, you're right. It's tradition that obviously Pizzo was there with Pereira from the FA and Gyro was there. So there's usually two.
A mix. Yeah. Okay. Okay, gents, let's keep it moving then. I've got a question here that's coming from Twitter and it's coming from Sports Talk. Very quickly, maybe we can just... your front runner for... I like what you did there. Front runner for coach of the season. Who would that be?
It's a good effort.
Look, I don't want to put my head on the chopping block with 10 games to go, to be honest. Well, Sundowns have two in hand. But I've always maintained, and, you know, when we get to this part of the season, there's always debates, you know, split opinions.
Yeah.
I've always maintained the coach who wins the league is the ABSA Premiership Coach of the Season. That's it for me. I mean, done and dusted. You know, maybe we could invent most improved. You know, it could have to be something spectacular. Maybe if an unfancied team like Maritzburg United or Free State Stars or Polokwane City finish runners up and it's a close chase, then maybe you could argue that maybe the runners up with fewer resources can actually give the coach the award. But for me, I've always maintained you win the league over
seems like
30 games.
Metric.
Seems fair enough that you win you win the award.
That's fair. I mean, the only argument would be, what if you win the Champions League? Does that take precedence over the league?
Yeah, but you see that's the other issue.
But if it's ABSA Premiership,
then it's the ABSA Premiership award.
Then it's the ABSA Premiership.
It's not looking. You're not having a bird's eye view saying who did well in all competitions in the domestic league. You're just saying who did well in the ABSA Premiership because it's a sponsored trophy.
Yeah.
So you can't dictate to. You can't bring in the Nedbank Cup and Telkom Knockout and the MTN 8. You only have to. You're so restricted to just looking at the 30 games within the ABSA Premiership. So that's
and outside of the coach who wins it, Veli, who would you say then? Would it be the coach who saves the team at the bottom?
No. I share the same sentiments with Mazola here.
But I'm saying outside of the one who wins it, who would be next best?
The coach who wins the league is the
best
coach of the season.
And the second best coach would be?
But I'm also interested because this is a debate that we need to come back to. Because do we restrict ourselves, especially when it comes to this question now, to just what ABSA Premiership goes for, which is, I mean, the coach who wins the league.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But especially when you take someone like Pizzo, they are currently doing well in the CAF Champions League. Look to be heading to the last 8, and I think now it's for fourth season in a row that he's going for number 1 or number 2 in the league and also doing well in the Champions League, because this is their 4th Champions League in a row under him in the group stages. And you also have Pirates, who are also on a similar path as well. They could make the last 8 in the Champions League, and on the other side, they are in serious running for the league title. And for me, I don't care who says what. Those two teams, in terms of their schedule, they are way ahead of the teams that are campaigning here at home. You know, and it's just a different level. You remember we shared this the other day, and I saw something on Twitter where somebody was in Australia but watching a Pirates against FC Platinum game. You know, so for me, as people who are ambassadors of South African football, currently I cannot look outside those two.
Sure.
But obviously those two.
But it's still early for me to decide on the coach.
I think at the moment you can only really say who's not coach of the month, and of the season. Sorry, and Giovanni Salinas is definitely not going to win, and Luke Amael is definitely not going to win coach of the season. But until it's done and dusted,
you know, there was a debate here.
Last
year there was a debate here that the coach of the season should be so and so and so and so because he's set this record. That coach is no longer coaching that team.
Now, in terms of initiatives, I mean, we recently, when we were speaking about Philma Singer's passing, we were talking about initiatives that are there for past players when they're done with their soccer careers and have hung up their boots. Now, Betway recently launched the 12th Man initiative, which is being spearheaded by Lucas Khatebe, in terms of upskilling and helping uplift players who have long since left the game. And obviously, there's always that life after football question that they're hoping to address. I mean, the importance of initiatives like this is long overdue, but welcome nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I was at that function at Ferguson's in Ilovo, and I think the important thing about it is that, for me, was that it's sort of half-half with the Banyana legends as well. It's rare that I've seen Banyana legends included in a scheme like that. Right. And I think it's important to recognise the female footballers who've given a good service to this country, like Portia Modise, and give them the opportunity as well. And obviously the Bafana and the male legends also, it's also important. But I think it's a good thing. Obviously you want a result, so it's great that Betway have come on board and have invested in this, but obviously you want to see what happens at the end of the program. Yeah. Have these people got the life skills that they need? Have they walked out on the program? Were there issues? Those kinds of things. But as an initiative, I think it's fantastic.
And I guess that's the thing at the end of the day, is that there's always never like these, we live in such a metric-based world, it's all about impressions and clicks and all those things. And you want to see that kind of being, used in a system like this, where I'm reading the press release, they are focusing on the fact that they want to keep tabs on the development and progress of the people that come through this process.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, I think, the long-term goal is to see some of these legends, men and women, being employable at the end of the day, to look after the program. I think, how long is it, 6 months or so?
Yeah, 6 months.
After 6 months to see, maybe some of the clubs, whether it's in the top division, in the lower leagues, or anywhere in the football space, mind you, that someone would come, knock on their door. Let's have a look at what you've achieved over the last 6 months, what you've upskilled yourself with, and let's see if we can plug you in and actually, get your hands dirty and plow back and give back to football. Because a lot of the times we tend to want to rely on the FA to do these kinds of things. And I think it was after Phil passed away that the legends and former footballers gathered at Safa House, and it was just complaints after complaints, So if you have an outsider, perhaps in some in some way, like Betway, come in and say, here's what we're offering, it goes a long way in trying to assist. Okay, maybe you could argue 6 months. We have to see what can happen in a short.
I think maybe you could also kind of cultivate an appetite for a skill that you do learn, and then take that further. I don't think obviously
then
6 months. Just
I think a big part of it was that came across at this press event was that these guys can then take, ladies and gentlemen, can then take their skills into their communities, and perhaps. If say Steve Lecolea wants to start a tournament in the Vaal, or he wants to do something in the Vaal, if he's got proper sponsorship training or proper training in how to attract sponsors and marketing and all that kind of thing, he then uses those skills and he produces a brilliant football tournament in the Vaal for the people from where he comes from.
Sure, with the longevity and sustainability.
With the longevity and sustainability. So it's not just 6 months and then that's that.
Okay.
The sponsor did say they are going to keep a vested interest in what happens after that 6 months.
Okay, no, big ups.
There's always been this feeling that there's a sense of entitlement, especially amongst some ex-professional footballers. When you're starting something new, you come up with an initiative and you back it and you work hard behind that. And I've seen players, some ex-players, and somebody I was happy to see there is Alfred Piri, Maimane Piri, because he's been having his own tournament and other initiatives.
Sure.
So for him, even I spoke to him last week, and he was saying, what, now this is also going to give me something in terms of organizing my competition.
Yeah, to make it better.
To make it better.
It's already popular, but can go another.
How do I maximize?
Yes, how do I maximize and come up with, with a lot of things around it. And also, I was also happy to see Ru, because this is part of his initiative as well.
Sure.
And he's somebody who's never struggled really, when it comes to endorsements, post his football career. But now
he's a marketing magnet, that guy.
To now see his idea of sharing this with other guys.
Yes.
Because when we spoke to some of the guys last week was to say, okay, you are the first 10. And also, if you notice, this group of 10 is only from here in Gauteng. And Betway doesn't make money only from Gauteng in South Africa.
Sure.
So they still must go out to all the other provinces.
Sure.
But now this is the pilot project that is starting with this group of 10.
Sure.
So this group of 10, they've got to make sure that this is working properly, And I think with the ladies as well, I mean, Yosibongile Khumalo, your Amajita, Portia as well. There's this National Women's League. We don't know when it's starting. So at least when it starts, these girls will be equipped.
Yeah. To participate and contribute.
To participate and contribute. But the challenge that we see most of the time is that professional football players, there are only 32 teams playing at pro level. Yeah, in the NFD and in the PSL. There are only 32. And we've got a number of ex-players. So the ex-players, even those who've got football qualifications already, they must go outside, help out at schools, help out at the LFA, even ABC Motsipe, because they cannot all be in top flight. So this is the challenge that we normally get sometimes. But I'm hoping that after this initiative, we can see something different. And also with the sponsor continuing as well. And I'm happy because people are betting every day, so the money is coming back.
Yeah, there we go. It's the people who are helping this initiative along. Okay, guys, let's have a look at the PSL results. Just a quick blitz through some of the big ones. Starting on Friday, Chippa United, Golden Arrows. I mean, for Arrows missing the opportunity to close in on the top 8, I figure with that result, 1-1 a fair result. Very quick. Yeah.
I expected Chippa to win.
Yeah,
at home,
I guess.
Given their form, I mean, Clinton Larsen still continues his unbeaten run.
Larsen playing against his former team.
Sure. Larsen against his former
Extra
team.
motivations, yeah.
There were quite a number of different dynamics there. But even when predicting the scores, I remember earlier I was having a chat with a friend of mine who was asking me about the scores and predictions and that for the weekend, and I had my money on Chippa edging it 2-1. So surprised in the end actually that Golden Arrows were the ones to score first, but I expected Chippa to win, not necessarily comfortably, because the way Khompela has been setting up his team recently since he arrived at Golden Arrows has been impressive. But I thought at home Chippa, new look Chippa, new coach on some type of unbeaten run would win that one.
Okay, cool. And then moving on to Polokwane City versus Kaizer Chiefs.
The keeper crisis deepens.
Yeah, he's got some decisions to make. I mean, as far as the goalkeeping department,
just give Bruce a chance.
I was listening to Mirandov's soundbite.
Yeah, he was irritated.
He was irritated. In fact, he doesn't know what to say anymore about the goalkeeping situation in Kaizer Chiefs.
Yeah.
But you see what the problem is? When you coach for cheap material, you'll get cheap results.
Right.
This is the situation. You go for cheap material, you'll get this.
Yeah.
And we knew it was just a matter of time.
Yeah,
we knew even this one would do this.
Yeah, we knew he was in the same WhatsApp group as Visual
Freeze.
Yes. And now the danger is his teammates, the back four, the back three that usually plays in front of him. When are they going to start trusting him?
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
So this is a lesson to the Chiefs management. You go for cheap options, you'll get cheap results.
They've let two much better goalkeepers go, obviously, in Riyad Peterson and brilliant Kuzwayo.
Right.
Even though Kuzwayo can't get a look in at Pirates with some sort of, I saw that, is he injured or is he not injured?
That's a
whole other story.
I was listening to Mitch explain that as well.
They may as well give Bruce Pavuma a go.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, this is the first really seriously long-term injury that Kune's had for a while, and that's a problem because he's the number one. He's the Bafana number one. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, but
Well, actually,
Kune has been injured for about the same time before.
Okay.
Remember,
it's just
with Baxter and Kompela.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, with Baxter and Kompela, what Baxter did.
But they just had better cover.
Yeah, they had better cover because Baxter was rotating Riyad Peterson, Brilliant Kuzwayo.
Right.
Steve played Brilliant Kuzwayo for half the season when Kune started off injured in that particular season.
Right.
So, but this time around, they just don't have decent cover. You know, I mean, Chiefs were linked with Riyad Peterson coming back because obviously, you know, he was made promises at Clorcop which are not being fulfilled.
Sure.
Telangobeni was another one, but Chiefs just didn't want to pay. You know, even there were talks of Chiefs looking outside. Because obviously, I mean, they bought Akpei in and he's Nigerian, so they had to make room for that foreign sport,
right?
Which they did by letting Walusimbi go. So they had the option to actually still look outside for a keeper, perhaps not with the PSL experience, but with the experience nonetheless.
Well, maybe that's the thing, I think midway through the season, January transfer window, do you want to look outside?
As Velile correctly puts it, they went for someone that was cheap. And
who was available though?
You know. They had to buy. It's not a matter of. They had to pay. Comes out.
They could have bought Telangobeni.
Yeah.
You know, they could have had Telangobeni because he's not even a third choice.
Sure.
At Sundowns.
Right.
You know, so when you look at how they're doing all these things, go to their game against Sundowns. Freeze Howler. Their game against Cape Town City.
Freeze Howler.
You know, Freeze Howler. This game this past weekend, they were leading. We don't know what could have happened. And if you look at those all these three games, Chiefs was dominating. You know, but just because of howlers from the goalkeepers, now they end up in this situation. And this is a team that for a very long time was reputed to have a very strong goalkeeping department.
Sure, of course.
You know, but the moment they started and in fact, another point around this was that Chiefs, even now, they were not looking for someone to challenge Kune.
Yeah.
They were looking for someone who will play number 2.
Sure.
But
and
now,
how many goalkeepers are going to want to do that?
Let's go back. Let's go back to the last 5 seasons. Which season Kune has ever finished 100%? Not injured.
And actually, given his injury, I have a goalkeeper friend of mine who showed me and the exact similar injury on his shoulder. He said when he was playing, he was never able to play 6 games in a row because of that shoulder injury. He had to play through injections. He had to play through pain because his club at that time did not have a competent backup keeper. Now Kune coming back, similar injury. I think it's his left shoulder. I can't remember. I think it might be his left shoulder. He quite possibly. Obviously, the medicine has changed now. Maybe the doctors can manage it better, but quite possibly, Kune might never be in a position where he can actually finish a season, or he would have to be rotated. He might not be able to go 10 games in a row without feeling pain or having to pay through the pain or with injections and what have you. So Chiefs actually next season they have to go and buy a proper.
But then contrary
proper
to that, like they're paying Billiat obviously a fat salary. They're paying Manyama a decent amount of money. They had to pay Sundowns. They had to pay Fulton Pachlele more than Sundowns were paying. So he's on a decent wage.
Yeah.
Why? Is it Kune? That's the question I would ask. Does he just not want competition? Or too much competition?
What I've learned about Chiefs, John T, in recent years is that Chiefs, when it comes to paying the salary in the PSL,
it's not a problem.
In fact,
it's buying.
There was a stage where Chiefs was number 1.
Transfer fees.
Yeah, they don't want to pay transfer fees.
Okay.
Stop. There's a lot of clubs like that. The Wits are also like that.
And it's going to be very rare for you to find a quality player without paying a transfer fee. The only player, and Bobby did say that they were trying to get him, but he said his intentions on going back to Europe. Darren Keat. They wanted him.
But would they have gotten him this season though? No. I doubt it. They were waiting for him to be a free agent to join them.
In fact, they also knocked on the doors of SuperSport, surprisingly, for Ronald Williams. You know, but look, maybe for them they are still think about chasing the number 2.
Yeah, but
I
keepers make such a big
think they
difference
must go
themselves.
for a number 1.
They must go for a number 1.
Yeah.
They must go for a number 1.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, with keepers being so important, who's going to sell their number 1 for nothing? It's going to have to be a big transfer fee.
Kuna's not getting any younger.
Yeah, they're going to need to replace him.
He'll be 32 next season. Now he's got a proper injury that's going to set back his career in some ways. Obviously, I'm preempting here, but given how serious this injury is, he might never really fully recover. He might really need a proper backup and actually competition, so that if the coach rotates the squad, he doesn't feel it.
There's no drop in quality.
Yes, exactly.
There could be a wholesale somewhere at the end of the season.
There will be.
It will be. Okay, you let us know the location as we get closer. We don't want to unsettle players. Let's move on to Cape Town City versus Maritzburg United. Benny doing what he does with his team when he gets them to play well and heaping the misery on Eric Tinkler. Who, I'm sure at times wonders what he was thinking taking this one on, but...
well, he got 1 win.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean...
City are very good at home. City are very good in Cape Town. They're very difficult to beat, and they score lots of goals. I think they've now scored more goals than anyone else in the league. They're the top scorers, just ahead of Pirates. Yeah. But I think that they've done remarkably well of late, considering, obviously, they've now lost Nadada and Pucha for the rest of the season.
Sure.
They lost Patosi to Iran. I think that was a surprise, even for them. The offer came in, the big money offer.
That was always the deal, right?
Yeah. And to be fair, they've put their money where their mouth is in terms of bringing in Travis Graham, bringing in this. I'd never heard of Chris David.
Yeah. Chris David.
My mind went to Craig David, the British soul singer.
Same.
Chris David, and we'll see what he can bring. But they've been very good. The goalkeeper Löwenberg that they've brought in that I hadn't heard of. The Butcher, even, so they've been very good.
Even Khalani, when he came back, a lot of people were like, "Who's this guy?" But
and Gift Links has done very well, and he got a goal. So they seem to have a very good squad, and Benny is proving himself an astute coach. And to be fair to Benny McCarthy, he didn't just turn up in South Africa as Bafana's leading scorer and go, I'm Bafana's leading scorer, give me a job. He got himself all the coaching licenses. He did a bit of a stint in Belgium and that kind of thing. So he did all the hard work that a coach should do to become a coach, and he's done very well, I think.
But do you think they can keep him?
Benny?
Yeah.
He's wanted.
Let's talk that super sport.
He's a wanted man there.
I think Benny already has got the next address.
Well, there's the thing though, is when you're Cape Town City doing what they're doing now, right? Is super sport a step up?
Well, that's a question, because Eric Tinkler, in his mind at the time, super sport were definitely a step up.
Right.
Even though I think that season Cape Town City finished higher than super sport.
Yeah, but you know what? SuperSport is an established team. Yeah. Taking nothing away from Cape Town City, and even in terms of profile on the continent, as a football brand, SuperSport United is a bigger team. Achievements and everything.
Sure.
Budget and everything. Don't ask me how I know the books. But,
I was about to say, how much bigger is the budget? Double the budget? 3 times the budget?
The side business as an accountant.
You know this debate that we usually have. Who's the highest paid player? Hey, somebody at SuperSport once called me. Hey, Baba, don't go on national radio and say so and so. Yeah. Have you seen other teams' budgets? Yeah. And I was like, what are you talking about? I said, hey, we are paying people US dollars here.
Look, I mean, just to Velile's point, the Tusopala saga right now, Stan Matthews is on the record saying Tusopala could very well be the highest paid player in the PSL. And everyone was like, what?
What?
But what is that, though? Is it the price you're going to have to pay to avoid players being lured by what is more glamorous teams, maybe as Sundowns, Chiefs and Pirates? Why do you overpay like that? Is it sustainable? I mean, if you look at now the results and you look at that very player not being able to contribute to the cause, have they got the right model in place? I mean, I understand that call. The guy was gloating, but
I know that's the previous home, right? Eh?
The other side, the broadcast side.
No,
We're paying much
but
more.
that is still one. That is still one company. Eh?
I guess.
Yeah.
I was paying to Sopal.
Sponsorship.
They took some from my salary.
Yeah, because SuperSport. Think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
This is the team that owns the league anyway.
In a way. Yeah, no, it's very...
Big vest, they won't pay
Unless
the
it
transfer.
casts a step in.
They won't pay the transfer. Hey, I'm not entering this one. Hey, we had a long debate on this one. The vets, for instance, SuperSport as well. They won't pay the transfer fees.
They'll wait for the contracts to run down, but...
wait for the contract to run down. But when it comes to the salaries, so let's not be quick to say... Oh, Sundowns, that's unprecedented. I mean, the owner now owns a bank. I mean, really.
He's literally printing money.
He's literally printing money.
I've seen some Chiefs and Paris fans on Twitter calling the club is an NPO.
NPO. That'd be,
exactly.
Fair write-off.
Fair enough. But you definitely can't discount SuperSport. So and that's one of the reasons why Eric Tinkler was lured away. Let's go back. Kevin Johnson, when he was at Platinum Stars, when it looked like he could do something with that team, there was lured away. So that's it. I mean, Gavin Hunt must have been getting paid well,
Swallow.
And then also even from there. The point I'm making is that moving from SuperSport to Vets, it shows you just those two teams. You can talk about not paying the transfer fees, but when it actually comes to paying the salaries, I mean, why would Gavin, who hates moving, had been at SuperSport for 6-7 seasons, and all of a sudden jumps to Bidvest Vets, who were... on a lot of occasion, most seasons considered to be also runs of the Premiership. In terms of where they would finish, just there about maybe winning a trophy here and there, but going there to try and challenge for the championship. So, I think Benny has a tough decision to make.
So I can never quite buy into Witz's kind of poor man that comes out of the club often this thing of like, we don't have the money that other clubs have, or that.
I never take them seriously. I never take them seriously.
Not since Mr. Bidvest came in. Surely not. Mr. Joffe has opened up their world. Surely. Let's look at the results. SuperSport at home losing to Baroka.
That's the thing I think we touched on consistency last week as well. We were talking about how SuperSport, Caetano Tembo was talking about SuperSport. It's the first time in 16 games that they had gone on a run where they won 3 games in a row. I was already thinking that's going to come to a halt sooner rather than later. Because consistency is an enemy of the PSL. And a lot of teams. I mean, let's look at it now. Which team has won 5? Even Sundowns are struggling to string together a 5-game winning streak. That result to me didn't come as a surprise at all.
I mean, Baroka now moving out of the relegation zone. I mean, it's a big 3 points for a team in their position. And you play against a team who've just beaten Pirates. You're thinking to yourself, is it that come down? Is it when the players have played a big game against the likes of Pirates, they're like, that's Baroka.
And also, especially when the third game for them, where now they've won 3 games in a row, was against Pirates. So that inconsistency we're talking about, and we saw what crept in after the Paris game for them. But I was also surprised because Baroka are not really good travelers.
Right.
And I remember there was someone I was talking to about this game, that Baroka, it's impossible that they will win this game on the road. And they just won it like that. And we were talking earlier on about Chippa that had been doing well but failed to collect maximum points at home. And when you look at the latest log standings, they've gone down there. But also the difference as well, if you look at the difference, the margin, it's I mean, you look at the results from this past weekend, if you can also jump to his home team. I saw him panicking yesterday that they're not keeping a clean sheet. Free State Stars. Free State Stars.
I mean, yeah, you're right.
And you look at a player, and I don't know, I'm going to go back to something we discussed before. But when you talk about seasoned football administrators, it's what you find there at Free State Stars. They know that Snatemba Janji has signed for Bidvest Wits.
Right.
But between now and end of the season,
he's still their player.
He's a Free State Stars player.
Yeah, still their player.
And if you can go and check the stats, the number of goals and assists that is provided during this period when he had committed to Wits already.
Sure.
You know,
he's still being professional. They believe
exactly
there's still a professional player who can do the job.
You know, and if you look at what Leopards had done, but at least they brought back Munyai now.
Nange was on the bench last yesterday.
You see, and I think Munyai hit the crossbar, playing against his next team.
Sure. Yeah. No, of course.
You know,
because I mean, you're still a professional. You're still a footballer. You still want to show that you're doing what you're capable of doing. It's your job at the end of the day.
Yes, and you know, at some stage I was thinking, hey, I hope the owner of Polokwane City is watching this game, so he can say, hey, I'm still a novice in this thing.
Yes, there we go. Okay, and then there was the big one at the top between Wits and Sundowns. Sundowns, I mean, you know, some would argue this is a difficult game to expect them to, you know, just kind of get in there and ram their way through 3 points. Wits were always going to be up for it. And maybe it's a missed opportunity for Wits then because, you know, they were playing against 10 men. So who would be the happier of the two coaches after that one?
I think Pizzo. Yeah. For me, Pizzo, I think that the game was ruined by the red card. It was a completely correct red card.
Right.
Because Lakai was hauled down by Aronson and he was going to be clean through on goal. But both teams were really having a go at that point, and you know, Wits had just got back into it. They looked like, and they actually played much better 11v11 than they did 11v10. They couldn't. Sundowns basically said, "It's fine, we'll take a point. We're basically 2 points behind with 2 games in hand. It's not really a worry for us."
Sure.
And after half time, they just settled for a point and said, if we can get something on the break, then that's fine. But we're just going to sit in and we're going to let you try and break us down. And we've got so much experience. And that showed. Wits couldn't find a way through them. Whereas when Sundowns were attacking them, Wits had much more space in the other third to attack Sundowns. And they actually had 3 or 4 chances to score more goals. I think Motupa missed a sitter of a header before he got he did get the equaliser. So I think that for Wits, they're not on a very good run. They're not playing very well. They're not getting results, and they're not playing particularly well at the moment. And I think they're top, but it's looking pretty precarious and more precarious by the week. I would fancy Sundowns at the moment, although obviously if Pirates can stop being Jekyll and Hyde, they're also well in it.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a possibility this week that the next time Wits plays, they could be 4 points behind. If Sundowns wins the two matches this week against them.
Right.
But Sundowns has got Cape Town City,
of course,
twice in 2 weeks, and Cape Town City is still also playing Wits on Sunday. And for me, this is where I feel that this season's league title is going to be decided, because these teams are going to cancel out each other.
Sure.
Especially the top 4 that we're seeing at the moment, Cape Town City, because I don't want to rule out Cape Town City, because they still have to play Sundowns twice. They still have to play, I think, Paris as well.
I think so, yeah. They're playing Wits.
They are playing Wits. They can decide their own fate with the results from this game. In fact, but it's possible that by the end of this week, Cape Town City will be back in the mix. You know, and remember, they, just like Wits, they don't have to travel outside South Africa. It's just the league title for them. But as to whether they've got the
experience and the know-how,
the right mentality on the bench, and which for me is where I see this Wits team, when I compare to the team that won the league title the last time in this one, I'm not sure, you know, because they had a better squad.
They had definitely had a better squad when they won the league in 2017.
And you look at some of the games they've lost this season, and they've
already lost 5 games this season.
Yeah, more.
You know?
So for me, it's going to be interesting. I know that Sundowns twice this past week they missed out going to the top. And also remember, for Sundowns, it's not easy to beat Bloemfontein and Celtic for them.
No, sure.
It's another bogey team like Polokwane City. They can never be.
Because with the Sundowns defense, with the Sundowns defense, you've got a pacey attacker against them, you can catch them.
And they struggle. Yeah, that's hence the red card. I mean,
that was Lakai.
You know. But what are Chiefs deciding? The relegation. They're deciding the relegation battle.
They're still in the time for the title, according to some.
Mathematically, they're
Chiefs. But I think they'll have a say. They'll have more of a say in the relegation battle than
no. Because Chiefs has finished playing Pirates this season.
They
Sundowns
played twice. They played Sundowns twice.
Cape Town City. And it's, as might as well say.
I think what we touched on as well with the inconsistency makes it impossible to predict.
Who's gonna
because like one team will win the one week, you think, oh, these guys are flying, then they lose, so it just makes it very difficult.
Yeah. Well, Pirates, speaking of inconsistency, let's focus on Pirates. There we go. 4-1.
Lost to SuperSport and then did that to Amazulu.
Exactly. I mean, the changes were spot on from Micho. Mahachi comes in, Mamela comes in, they score.
Yeah, I think Memela was the difference on the night. I thought. Also Amazulu's tactics were also questionable. They took the lead so early and then wanted to defend the lead so early in the game. I mean, there's no way with the kind of attack that Pirates had on the pitch, you cannot maintain, sitting back and parking the bus for that long. Yeah. So
remember Chiefs at FNB?
Exactly. So at some point when they opened up, I mean they opened up the floodgates. So Memela, Lodge again also after that game opening up the debate about the footballer of the season as well. A couple of candidates there as well. So it was an interesting game from that point of view as well. But it's also such a schizophrenic Orlando Pirates team. I mean, what next?
That's the thing.
And why did the technical team celebrate like they just won a cup final? What was that about anyway? I don't know.
Remember the team, they are now going to their fifth season or fifth year of having won nothing.
Right.
So anything we celebrate.
Even at 4-1
That's cold-blooded.
But also this is an Amazulu team that had beaten Sundowns, and there's another team that they had beaten. Amazulu, they had beaten Sundowns. There's another team that they had beaten. So and also they came back from 1-0 down at home.
With Wits having just drawn with Sundowns, the door was open for them, and then they had that pressure of having to win.
So sure. Well, they responded well, I guess, in that state. And then we spoke about the derby, the Free State derby. I think for me, Free State Stars, you say, using their players to the maximum to get the results. But I just looked at the table after this one, and, Free State Stars, with a game in hand, if they win that game in hand, I think can go up on, to number 12 or 11 on the table.
The stress levels are high. I think it was about time Coach Nicola got a result like that. He needed it. He needed it just for his own personal morale and for the team as well. And what was interesting is that the way that they set up, the way they played as well. And he admitted after the game that they don't usually play counter-attack football, but nothing was working prior. Nothing was working prior, so they had to change. You see, that's what I like it when a coach admits things like that. That look, it wasn't working, we had to change it around, and hence we when we changed it, we scored 3 goals.
Sure.
It's silly that we almost drew the game 3-3. I mean, Free State Stars, Bloemfontein Celtic scored 2 goals and had a penalty missed. So he admitted that it's silly that the team would have given away two soft goals or silly goals, but at the end of the day he would have taken the 3 points and just kind of breathe a little bit, because then it gives the players belief that they've got it in them, especially when you beat your provincial rivals as well. High stakes in that game, I think, because Celtic also need to keep getting the points so that they try and consolidate a place in the top 8. But Stars need to move away because things were different under Luka Imael last season, winning the Nedbank Cup and finishing in 6th position. Now all of a sudden it's back to what it used to be.
Relegation scrap, season in, season out.
It's also interesting how Stars has demented this derby, because even though they've not been doing well, but they've completed a double this season over Celtic. But I also, going back to your point earlier, there's where he admitted that he's learned in the PSL, because if you watched him at Township Rollers, his team was playing good football. But in this short space of time, he says he's learned that if you want results in the PSL, you don't have to play good football. It's not a matter that you play nice football.
Sure. That's the cherry on top.
Yes.
But if you want to be effective.
Yes, and now hence is gone for this counter-attack I talk about.
In his defense, he hasn't had a preseason. He's come on in January when the team was already struggling, and he didn't know the players. Yes, he might have known of the league because he had been linked with several clubs here, including Kaizer Chiefs before. So he knows the league. He knows of the league. The club also, just to appease him a little bit, brought him some players from Township Rollers as well, in a defender as well, to try and get to play his own way. But I think if he can survive and get a pre-season, we'll probably see the real just his imprint on the team as well. But it's going to be tough.
Saturday he's up against Black Leopards, who now seem to have gone a bit off the boil. We were busy lauding them, and they played 0-0 with Highlands yesterday. So, is this an opportunity now that he has a confidence-building victory in a new system that, maybe now people are still going to have to try figure out if they can repeat and replicate what they did against Bloem Celtic, against Black Leopards?
They've definitely plateaued a bit, Leopards. I think the transfer sagas didn't help them, and they didn't help themselves in that sense.
Sure.
Like Mazola, I think, was saying, or Velilo was saying, if you sign a guy, if a guy signs a pre-contract, just, let him go in the summer and let him play for you, because he'll give his heart for you, if you treat him like that. So I don't know. I thought they reacted a bit rashly. And now Marcus Minow has come back, and Nangate was on the bench. But I think that they've definitely on a bit of a dip. They were a bit unlucky against Wits in the Nedbank Cup, because they were much better than them in the first game before it started pissing it down in Toyando. And then unfortunately they lost on penalties. But otherwise they've definitely hit a bit of a dip. So it's definitely an opportunity for Free State Stars. If they found a formula, they must stick with it, I think. Play again like that. It must just win ugly, and it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Everybody sort of says, the under-20s didn't play well at the African, but they qualified for the World Cup. Who cares?
Exactly. At the end of the day. Yeah. Okay, guys, before we wrap it up, you've been called up on something. Someone's pulling you up on Twitter. Do you want to respond to that? And you can feel free to
read it
show
out.
The guys.
Mazola said the winner of the league should win the coach of the season. So his stance has changed from last season. He even wrote this article.
Oh God. I hate it when that happens.
Ghosts.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah?
Did you?
What was the conclusion?
What did you say?
I remember that column. I think I was just starting up the debate again to say, should we re-look at it? Because I was talking about the model of it's an ABSA Premiership trophy.
Right.
Should we look overall?
Because a more holistic
if
approach.
We look at because I think when I wrote the article, Free State Stars and Maritzburg United were headed to the Nedbank Cup final.
Right.
It hadn't been decided yet who would have won the competition. And my point was they were already going to finish in the top 8. And my argument was that they are under-resourced, if I can call it that. And what they've done, especially from a Free State Stars point of view, where they had spent 5 seasons prior to that battling relegation, it was a remarkable achievement.
Sure.
And even
which then spoke to your point about most improved coach or those kind of criteria.
Anything this man says that's got Free State Stars is because it's coming from Bethlehem. Don't listen to that.
This is a Bethlehem bias.
This guy is killing my credibility now.
Don't listen to that. If he was saying, Fadlu Davids, remember those case of Fadlu Davids, and people were stating the case.
But the article also has
but
it's in it.
But he said Maritzburg and
but no. But the point is emphasizing is Free State Stars. I know Chupa United, doesn't really have candidates.
And then very quickly, gents, Dennis Onyango extending his contract at Sundowns. What do we make of that business?
Look, good business. I think my opinion is this. great for the club to show loyalty.
Yeah.
To a loyal servant and all of that. He with that contract he will go up until he's 38.
Right.
But Onyango's he's been injury prone. He's been error prone of late. I doubt by the end, towards the end of the contract, he'll still be the number one. But he will be a great squad player to have. I mean, Dennis Onyango, Africa's number one. Kune might have a few choices about that. But, I think it's solely just to reward him for being the servant that he is. And he served that club with distinction. And he deserves it. Whether the club finds another goalkeeper in the coming years, Dennis is still there to at least give them at least 2 years where he's still solid and at the top. What happens after that?
He also talked after the game about he thinks that Onyango maybe needs to retire after the AFCON from Uganda.
From international football.
And perhaps, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but maybe there's an agreement. Look, we'll give you a new 4.5-year contract, but please stop playing international football after the AFCON because we need you to play for us for as long as possible without all these injuries.
Because he was arguing that how can you make Onyango, when he's got a crucial league game, then spend the international break traveling around Africa to the Comoros and there when you could just use another goalkeeper, for instance. So
the only challenge is that Onyango doesn't really have a strong number 2 in Uganda. And if you look at Uganda and their history, I mean, it took them almost 40 years to play in their next AFCON. And Onyango was one of the players who led them to this. And, when he assumed that number 1 jersey in Uganda, he was sitting on the stands here in South Africa. He was not even playing. And Micho took this opportunity and this gamble with him to say, you know what you can do. I coached you long time ago, in Villa. And go there and play. And he played. And then, only then that Sundowns brought him back from the stands, and he became their number 1. So I feel, I'm not sure if it's the right thing for Sundowns to force Onyango to retire his national team jersey.
Right.
Because for him, I won't like also another club from outside
doing the same with our goalkeepers,
with our players, So that was just the only part for me. I was like, this one.
And Pizzo worded it in his usual way. He was like, I wouldn't. It's not for me to tell the Ugandan coach what to do, but
right, yes,
Pizzo went as far as saying, I think he's gonna retire after the AFCON, which. Then,
it could be part of the agreement.
And then 2 days later, they announced a 4.5-year deal. I mean, coincidence? I don't think so.
I think not.
But also I think I'm not surprised because Sundowns, even if you go there today, the Chlorocopiat is full of ex-players. And I will not be surprised that by the time he retires, he will already be having his coaching badges.
And position for him.
And working with the juniors at Sundowns. Because even now, when you look at the former captain Azram Nyandoro, is turning out to be one of their key scouts. They're at Sundowns currently. So I think with Onyango, there's a long-term plan. Because I also don't think, because he turns 34 when in May. I also don't think he will finish that contract.
Of course.
It could be converted
into something else.
A new package where he will be one of the staff members.
Okay. Cool, gents. That was rather exhaustive. I think we touched on everything possible.
We'll blame it on
Maurizio. Sorry, we're not talking about
exactly.
him.
And Kepa. We kept Kepa out the conversation.
When we discuss EPL, then count me out.
There we go. Gents, thank you so much, Mazola, Veli, John T. It's been great. And to you too on the socials, tuning in to the Frontrunner Sport Podcast on Instagram. For myself, Gamzambata. Until we do it again in a week's time, peace.